In the 1950s, United States was all about political radicalism, scapegoating, and extreme paranoia. There was great tension in the United States because they were at war with both Korea and the Soviet Union. But the Cold War against Russia was fought on a psychological level due to its political and ideological differences. Both the United States and the Soviet Union were two of the world's superpower countries, and increasing global communist influence was making many of the American people uneasy. McCarthyism was the solution to this unrest. McCarthyism embodies the feeling of paranoia and was executed by blaming far left liberals or members of the Communist Party for acting as spies for the Russians. During his senatorial career, his zealous anti communist policies and his list of names sent the United States on a communist witch hunt. McCarthy clung tightly to his policies and alleged controversial communist intel. This video will attempt to prove that Senator McCarthy's paranoia of communism had a significant effect on the social landscape of the United States of America in the 1950s and has contributed negatively to the American perception toward foreign ideologies and practices nowadays. McCarthyism actually began before Joseph McCarthy came to notoriety. The arrest of Alger Hiss sparked fear of communists infiltrating the government. Hiss was a member of the United Nations who was accused of being a communist and then convicted of perjury. He was first accused of being an undercover communist by a former communist, Whittaker Chambers. According to Chambers, Hiss had orders from the Communist Party to, quote unquote, mess stuff up. Hiss fought back suing for libel, but he was outsmarted. Chambers had numerous copies of top secret documents from the State Department that Hiss had allegedly given him. Hiss was charged with perjury, but still retained his innocence. Hiss's conviction, however, was solid evidence to McCarthy and other anti communists that there were communist spies within the government. With the arrest of Alger Hiss, people began to wonder how many secret communists were in positions of power or even living close by. McCarthy's fierce anti communist policy was a ploy targeting the fears of average Americans. He named Alger Hiss as an example in many of his speeches regarding communist infiltration in positions of power. McCarthy essentially made himself a symbol in the anti communist crusade to gain power and influence. He may not have been a conservative Republican as claimed, but populist. McCarthy modeled himself to be a small town hero archetype to gain support of American common people. McCarthy rose into infamy on February 9, 1950, at a Republican women's club in Wheeling, West Virginia. The speech he read would officially spark the beginning of the anti communist crusade. In his speech, he claimed to have an FBI composed list of names of people who were secret communists or loyal to the party inside the State Department. He would not name any names, though. McCarthy made use of his religious emotional language that would appeal to Christians. He calls Lenin and the Soviet Union, quote unquote, immoral atheists. Moreover, he heavily emphasizes that Christian democracy is being overtaken by flawed and oppressive communism on a global scale. Senator McCarthy also used common biblical references to exemplify how it felt to have spies within the government. Language like this made him appeal to the Catholic Christian community who were adamant supporters of the senator. It is important to remember that many Americans already had a negative bias toward communism before McCarthy had made its claims. Communism is not the root of all evil, and not all communists were immoral atheists. They were working force radicals with zealous ideas about the labor force and economy. After Wheeling, McCarthy was on a mission to prove his credibility and reveal names of communist interlopers. He attended a Senate floor discussion on February 20th where a low importance bill was being discussed. Many members of the Senate expected the senator to speak about his list of communists. Many of the senators, namely the Democrats, didn't want to listen to his anti-communist rants. The Tidings Committee was created as a response to McCarthy's claims. The committee was forced to investigate loyalty of State Department employees. The committee members were not there to support McCarthy's claims, rather opposed them. McCarthy would make a very general accusation like, quote unquote, this man had a known communist business client, or this person had tendencies that lead people to believe he was a communist. Even so, the accusations were valid enough to investigate. As each trial of the Tidings Committee commenced, McCarthy failed to name every single name he claimed to have. The chairman, Millard Tidings, and many other members became impatient of these unfounded accusations. McCarthy's assertion that communist infiltrators were hiding in the midst of the U.S. government made average American citizens experience paranoia and an impending sense of dread. Non-communist employers began to fear that they had communists employed under them, and communist employers, on the other hand, feared their employees would turn them in. Because of McCarthyism, Americans fired on the suspicion of being a member of the Communist Party found it extremely difficult to find another job. The Red Scare affected the lives of so many average citizens and played into the psychological warfare of the Cold War. William Buckley, a conservative Republican supporter of McCarthy, wrote a book after McCarthy's censure. McCarthy and His Enemies was a response to massive amounts of criticism directed at Senator McCarthy. Buckley firmly believed McCarthy to be a hero who spoke out against communist corruption at the heart of the U.S. government system. McCarthy is portrayed as an unrecognized martyr who sought to eradicate the Communist Party to prevent them from overthrowing the U.S. democratic government. McCarthy struck the first important blow against communists during his Wheeling speech. Despite popular opinion, Buckley believed it was an effective method to raise awareness of the present communist threat. He implied that McCarthy's enemies, mainly the Democrats, purposely mixed up what the senator was saying in an attempt to discredit him. When encountering the Tidings Committee, they allegedly warped his words when he made accusations. The committee made to remain neutral and examine his concrete evidence with a fair trial that turned out to be another one of McCarthy's enemies. Buckley saw the senator's methods as extreme actions to fight against an extreme issue. The American dream and democratic government system was at risk from invading communists. McCarthy was merely passionate about fighting to keep the American ideals and way of life intact. When discussing his list, McCarthy admits he did not know most of the people on it. He says he had to do extensive amounts of research to find out who these people were and justify their Communist Party affiliation or if they were simply just suspicious. McCarthy claimed none of his accusations were made up on the spot or said without proper evidence. When asked about why he went to such extreme methods to remove hidden communists from government, McCarthy claimed it was the only option he had to get the job done. He had tried going to the president and going through the Tidings Committee, but he assumed that McCarthy was trying a cheap political trick in an attempt to make them look bad. The senator had to resort to gaining the attention of the American people and win their support in exposing members of the Communist Party. Historians collectively agree that what Senator Joseph McCarthy contributed to American history was primarily negative. The paranoia and fear sensationalized McCarthy's list of names and anti-communist speeches to the point that many people started to wonder if there were communist spies living next door. The truth is, though, that Americans nowadays are still affected by this situation,